All right, we're ready.
We are ready.
Let's go.
Let's
Do
go.
this.
Okay, we're here with Jake Stevens from Rossignol, North American Alpine Product Manager.
Yeah. Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome. Obviously, we've known each other for a long time. You and George have known each other for a long time. We've done some projects together, plenty of trips out west skiing with you. Run us through kind of your journey at Rossi, because obviously you didn't start in that position, but
Yeah. I came out of the ski coaching world to take over the race department, ski racing. So I ran the U.S. junior program, is a good way to put it, I guess. So working with young kids up through World Cup athletes, building ski boots, building World Cup boots for athletes, and then all the kids, just getting kids dialed. Junior race program, being sponsorship level,
Yep.
academy level, supporting dealers, slowly working more and more with product development on that side of things to bring the junior race stuff in. World Cup is its own program. It's Formula One.
right.
But the more I did with building boots, making boots for athletes, grinding, canting, all that type of stuff, setups, the more I got brought into boot development and ski development. And so, yeah, on the more skiability side of things. So idea, help the team with what we need in North America, bring kind of the idea of North American thought process, what the ski would look like, what the boot would look like. And then the engineers do their thing. And then the next time I'm kind of part of the process is when we need to slide on snow.
Yep.
For a lack of better terms, and
Yep.
and say yes or no, this works or doesn't work. We need to adjust something.
Yeah.
Part of that process through the cycles of development. And so my job really comes into giving Europe the idea on what we should have for a ski or a boot, and then making sure it sells into the shops and different places.
Yeah.
And what was the first project like that? What was your first project, or like, this is what North America needs, this is what's missing? What was the first ski that people would be familiar with?
I was involved a little bit later into the Sender project. So right after kind of Seoul, that's really, as we were departing Seoul, that's when I was leaving the race department and becoming more of this product manager role. And so we had already started the process on Sender. And a little bit with some of the experience models, but really heavily involved with the new arcade line, the new Soul line, some of the Black Ops stuff, Center Free 110, big part of those projects. Still involved with the European stuff, more carving skis and that. We kind of test everything, but I don't have as much say there because it's, I let the French and the Italians say, we need this project or this product. On the ski boot side, High Speed was heavily involved with that project coming out of what was All Speed. All Track was still around and still is around. So we haven't done a ton of evolution there, but then with this Vision boot, heavily involved with what we were doing there.
Yeah. And that Sender Free project, is that, I assume that was a North American driven project.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. The Center Free, like Center Free 110.
Yep.
I mean, it was athlete driven. They wanted something. We had the Black Ops range, which originally was that secret squirrel, nobody knows what it is stuff. It obviously got turned into something bigger and reached more consumer facing reality. This is our line of skis. We've obviously moved away from that. The 118 is still pretty much the original Black Ops 118 from 11 years ago or something like that, or whatever that was. Even this ski here is still the original. This ski actually really hasn't changed for 10 years. It's the Black Ops 98. So
is that something in the future we'll see evolve?
Yeah, it is. I mean, this ski, we keep trying to say it's done. And then we threw on these graphics, and it's crazy because the Black Ops 98 is a twin tip free ride ski.
Yeah.
But if you were to cut the tail off of it, it would be an all mountain, front side carver.
Totally.
Right.
It's wild, 98 underfoot, which is a really cool construction, really cool feel. But it's, every time we try to go away from it and say we don't need it anymore, we just played around 2 years ago by putting a retro graphic on it and people went bananas for it. And then we put this graphic on it and people are going bananas for it. So we were like, all right, I mean, it shows, it's a simple construction. It's wood core, some metal, some rubber. That's about it.
Yeah. It works. And now it looks sick.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And one thing I think has been kind of crazy with my experience with Rossignol, even before I was in ski retail, is just when you guys come out with a hit, you absolutely come out with a hit, and you guys are, at the top of the game. You have the ski to have, and then that goes away, and then you come out with another hit. And the most recent big hit would have been the Soul.
Yeah.
And what year did the Soul come out? I don't remember. 12 or 13?
Yeah. 12 or 13. Trying to think of the math there, because I started with the company in 12, and I think we were launching it that year. I think it was the same 12 or 13. It was the same time as Hero, because that's what I was doing is Hero, which is our racing line.
Yep.
So I think that they were the same kind of launch cycle.
What a year to start.
Yeah,
huh?
wild, right? Yeah, it was cool. Yeah, especially with the racing. I mean, when you're in the racing world, you don't pay attention to anything else. The retail side of things was like this foreign.
Yep.
Like I didn't even know that we sold retail skis, really.
Yeah.
We sold race skis, and that was it.
That is really crazy in the industry. About it, it's literally its own silo. It's like you are solely focused on race, and that's it. And just like you said, I mean, you run into a guy that runs the race department, and like, you have this hit with Soul 7. And you're like, oh, what do you think of Soul 7? And they're like, I've never skied on it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm like, I'm so only thinking about race.
Yes.
So that's kind of cool. You came in at that time, but you were also probably exposed to, I mean, like you said, that was an absolute home run. That was at the time, the biggest selling volume ski ever in the ski industry. And it went on for,
and it didn't even snow that year.
Right.
And you have this 106 or whatever the first waist was.
Yeah.
106, but I mean, the way that it looked, its name, Soul is cool, 7 is cool. Rossignol hadn't had something really cool in a little while. And like the market was just like so ready for that. I mean, it was absolutely perfect timing.
Plus the light behind the tip.
The light behind that had to.
Light.
Yeah. And you had the European adapter to make it work here in the North America.
Oh, that's right.
On a North American driven project, probably.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. We still have those lights in the warehouse. Yeah.
That's hilarious. And that's a really good point. Obviously, Rossi's been around since 1907, right?
1907,
So heritage brand.
Yep.
Typical ski industry ebbs and flows, just like George said. Like there's this huge hit, and then typically that's tough to hold on to.
Yes.
So
I think what's kind of crazy is the amount of times Rossignol has come back.
Yes.
Like, because most ski brands, like they come out with a hit, it's over. I mean, we haven't really seen it come back.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, what's crazy about Rossi for me is even with kind of after the Soul days, we're still we sell a lot of skis, but it's kind of hidden. We're a big rental brand, and you can't discount rental. It's not really what your business is, but you go to all these ski shops around the country, and there's a lot of people renting skis. That's part of the industry. So we do a lot there. And then, the experience line just was a sneaky continuing product that we continued to sell a lot of.
Meat of the market too.
Meat of the market.
Yeah.
Meat of the market. And maybe we're not selling the $799, $899, $1,000 skis. We're selling a lot of $599, $499, which, is you're not in the limelight. You're just moving units and being consistent, which is great. The brand can survive that way. But it is a lot better when we're selling one ski in mass volume. At times, I think Soul 7, we were doing like 10,000 pair in the US.
Right. Which is insane.
In just the US, right? Which is like, that's nuts.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I think what else is kind of nuts about that ski is how well it sold. And for a lot of ski testers like us, it's not a ski that we were really ever fans of.
No.
And I don't know if you were when that thing first came out, or if you were ever a fan of the Soul. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I understood Soul. I understood why it was a good product and why people kind of fiend over it. It brought accessibility to a lot of people that didn't have it, right? It was a powder ski. It was 106, relatively wide in the sense of where we were kind of at. I know that it's not there were 122s out there and 125s from some companies. So not wide, but for the average skier, 106 was a big ski. But it was just so easy to slide around and move
And pivot.
and
Yeah.
pivot. And
Yep.
they could go into the bumps and come out of a mogul field and be like, that was easy. I've never had the bumps be easy or the trees be easy, or you could be back on that ski and you could drive it. It wasn't going to push you and it wasn't going to accelerate. It was just kind of there. And if you put, us on it and we pushed it, there were some problems there.
Yeah.
There were some hindrances. The tip bounced a lot. That
Yeah.
huge air tip,
Yeah.
while it made it light and made that swing weight really easy to move around, it made it a challenge for better skiers to really push. What was crazy about it is when we first launched it, the athletes were in love with it because as a powder ski, not an everyday driver, but as a, go shred a tree lines type of ski in blower or knee deep powder, that ski was great. It pulled you right to the top. You could push on it. It bent like crazy, and you could just be playful. And those guys weren't skiing that ski on hard pack. They were only skiing it in powder.
Right.
So they didn't know, they didn't have that feeling of the nervousness or the kind of shake the tip gave you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we started working with you guys more closely on I don't know if the project had a name yet, but in April of 2019, that's when we went out to Alta.
Yep.
And we had, that super heavy snow. We almost, pulled apart all the joints in our legs.
Yep.
But we're sitting at that focus group with, I can't remember how many people were there at Snowbird. It's like, Soul 7 has been great for us, but we're either going to, die with the Soul 7 or we kill the Soul 7 in Rossignol and we start back over. And here we are 5 or 6 years later and Soul is kind of back.
Yeah.
Kind of back.
Yeah.
So what was the thought process in bringing back the Soul name?
Well, I mean, part of it is that people have been asking for it. And the amount of phone calls that Rossignol gets daily asking what they should replace their Soul 7 with is insane. Our customer service team kind of keeps a tally on it. And I mean, sometimes we're getting 30 calls a day to the headquarters asking what do I replace my Soul 7 with? And that's been for years. What's crazy is that we killed a ski that we were still selling a lot of. I mean, it was not the heydays of Soul, but we were still moving a couple thousand units of that ski a year. I mean, there are brands out there that would kill to have a ski that they sell a couple thousand units.
Totally.
Especially in a 106 waist. That's insane.
That is insane.
Yeah. Yeah, and very little change to it. We changed the honeycomb tip. We changed the look of it.
Yeah.
We started moving it a little bit, playing with the size and how it integrated. But in reality, the ski didn't change for a long time.
Right.
And we made a decision that we were being called a dad brand, essentially, and I hate to say that, but that is a reality. We were going into this place where Rossignol was really looked at as something for just the average skier. And that bummed us out.
Yeah.
Because your two big hits would have been Soul 7, Sin 7, and then the Experience skis.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the way it looked is that we were kind of becoming a brand that was catering to 60-year-olds. And when we look at what is the next generation of purchaser, buyer, consumer, we needed to get that 30, 40-year-old to buy our product. And Soul had become, it wasn't a ski they were going to buy. And so we had to make a decision. What's our next move? And for us, our decision was to go after that 30-year-old. And in our market research, going after that 30-year-old was to build a stronger skiing ski, to build a more core ski,
Right.
a more aggressive ski, something that, we can go ski on and it's, badass. And
Right.
we are like, thumbs up, let's go shred.
Yep.
Which I think we built.
Yeah.
That was a problem because at
Pendulum swung.
the pendulum
Yeah,
swung.
right,
It
you're
was a
right.
big swing.
Yep. Yep.
It was a big swing. I mean, you guys sat in those meetings. That was
Yeah.
just before my time. I kind of came in right as the decisions were made that we were going to go away from Soul.
Yep.
We were going to make Black Ops the centerpiece for the
Right.
brand. It was no longer the secret squirrel. We were going
Right.
to tell you about everything. We were going to call everything Black Ops. Focus groups outside of what you guys were part of before you guys became part of it. And again, before my time, were that we should name each ski something cool and fun. And that's what we did. We named the skis. This ski was called the Holy Shred.
Right.
We had a bunch of other names. The Sender 106 was just one of the skis in the line, and it was called the Sender.
Yep.
And it was, that ski was the replacement for Soul. We had a 106, a 104, and a 94, and that was supposed to be the next, evolution. We were supposed to take the Soul ski that we were selling tons of to an older demographic and shift down to this younger demographic with all these cool names and all these badass skis.
Right.
We learned very quickly that was not the right direction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was, I mean, that was one of the ones where it got really quiet in the room, and obviously as a retailer getting brought there, you guys want us to be honest, but then in the back of your head at the same time, you're like, man, these guys like flew me out here and wined and dined us. And, and we have personal relationships with you guys. We're friends with, Reem was there at the time and Tor and, Nick and all those guys. So you're like, all right, we gotta toe the line a little bit. But like George and I looked at each other at the time and nobody was saying anything. And we're like, we gotta.
Yeah, we piped up and people are buying, like right now, people are into waist widths. They're into waist widths being in the name. That's what they're familiar with. It's something they can grab onto. And I get this copying Black Crows thing because they don't talk about waist width. It's just like Atris, Justice, Serpo, whatever the hell it is, Camox. Like, what are those things? But, I mean, honestly, we probably could sell more Black Crows if people knew what the waist widths on them were.
Right.
That definitely was, like you said, found out that didn't work. And then all of a sudden we had whatever it was, Center 94, and the numbers came back.
Yeah. And even and it was early. I don't know how much actually ended up hitting the end consumer, but some of the plans for some of the marketing stuff we saw, just like you said, it was just like,
ride free. I mean, that was the
pendulum went, pendulum went so far where it was like, hey, we get your course correcting here. Yep. You don't want to be this dad ski brand, but somewhere in the middle, maybe, the guy with the chainsaw in the backcountry. That was a lot.
Yeah.
The cat with laser beam eyes, that was one of them. There was a whole bunch of stuff. I actually just saw one of the posters in a base lodge the other day, which we, once we had moved on from that, we just kind of sent out all of the marketing stuff to big Rossignol logos in base lodges and ski shops where it was free for us to just kind of stoke out some people. And I saw one of those posters, the campaigns, big posters, 6 foot. And I was like, whew, that's some wild stuff. It was aggressive. I mean, it felt at the time, and I mean, not that this deterred it, but we never fully launched it because it was, honestly, our first major launch was to be at Jackson. We had brought in DJs. We had brought in, rented a bunch of different places around Jackson Hole, and had a full multiple sets of everything, demo fleet, just a big planned launch over a spring weekend. And that spring weekend turned into the lockdown of the world. It went from a Friday evening DJ set being postponed to Saturday, being, slowly each thing was size had to be smaller. We had to
Right.
bring less people. Okay.
Right.
By Sunday morning, lifts were closed and get home.
Yeah.
And that was the end of it. And then we end up launching, this ride free Black Ops campaign in COVID.
Yeah.
And so it never truly got off the ground. But it certainly made it very quick for us to understand that it was not the right direction.
Yeah.
And that the skis were awesome. I mean, the skis, I still believe the Sender 106 Ti is one of the more badass skis out there for the general person to go shred on.
Yep.
But it hits a small demographic. It's the 5%er.
Right.
And that you can't build a brand off the 5%er. Not Rossignol. Other brands can do that.
Yep.
Not Rossignol can't do that.
You know, I think we should bring some context to like how crazy the Soul 7 numbers were, like units wise for being 106, because of how far, units fall off. Like once you get over 102 in the waist, like it really falls off as a whole. And the fact that you could do that many units in a 106 is
multiple
absolutely
years in
insane.
a row.
Multiple years in a row.
Yeah.
Multiple years in a row. It wasn't, it started in 3,000 or 4,000 unit, and then it grew. And that, I mean, we're talking US numbers, and then it grew bigger and bigger and bigger. And we had multiple years in a row. And by the end of when we killed it, we were doing what the original numbers, the year one launch numbers were consistently. So
which are still, like you're saying, for context, those are still big numbers for a ski 106 in the waist. I mean, there's major brands that.
Well, let's just say, so we don't need to say the brand or the model, but there are global numbers where the units at 110 in the waist are sub 100 units globally.
Yes.
Like 10,000's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Totally.
Just for the US.
Just for the US. And I mean, it's like, I mean, when we made the decision to kill it again, it was just before me. So when I look at what that team had to decide, and to kill the name, that team had to make a pretty damn hard decision. Yeah. And I got to live it again recently when we launched, this new arcade line and the discussion there of, are we going to kill experience? I mean, that is a staple in this all mountain ski world. The 78 to 95 underfoot all mountain ski, arguably, experience has had generations of some of the best skis on the market.
Right.
Yeah.
And now we're going to kill this name.
Right.
How do you do that? And naming things, you guys have been part of that before. It's
Nightmare.
impossible.
Yep.
It's impossible to find a name.
I guess what's easier about going from the experience to arcade thing, versus like the Soul is people know like this is the replacement of experience.
Yes.
And honestly, the replacement of arcade to experience, these skis are absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
These are so much fun to carve around, and I think people are going to be really impressed if they give them a try.
Yep.
I mean, I was, I was like, dude, this is right up your alley. You're going to love this thing. And he was right.
Yeah.
They're great.
Yeah. But so then we, to just before we go on to that, I guess the next piece of where we were at to get back to Soul, that was a struggle as well, because we were again terrified that it was just us going back to does the public want that again? Does the average skier want to have the name Soul back on their ski?
Right.
And we really came to the idea that if we build a good ski, and we really focus on who the ski's for, and we're true to ourselves, and we're true to what Rossignol provides to the average skier, they'll be happy with it.
Yeah.
And so that's what we did.
Right.
We went back there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we had the pendulum over here with Soul 7.
Yeah.
Pendulum over here with Sender.
Yes.
So now with the new Soul Senders, we're somewhere in the middle.
In the middle. Yeah. The idea was, there's two pieces to it. You have the Sender free side of things, which is going to be your more free ride, twin tip style ski, athlete driven, and, really, really kind of more basic ski.
And for the listeners, could you just explain like what athlete driven means as opposed to
with the Sender free 110, we had the idea, we sat with the athletes, what do you need? And sometimes we get good things out of those conversations. Sometimes we get good things that are not commercial. I
Right.
guess that's a better,
Yeah.
we get from our athletes things that are really cool ideas, but they're not commercial. We're never going to be able to sell
Yeah.
it, and it's cool. Maybe we build it for you, but we're not going to be able to
Yeah.
sell it. What we resoundingly heard was that we needed a 110 underfoot ski. We had a 118, we had a 98. We
Right.
had a directional 106. We had a 112 directional ski. Nobody really knew about the Center Squad, which was a super cool ski, totally different shape, a lot of rocker, but it was directional. We had athletes skiing in the Freeride World Tour on it a
Right.
little bit, but it was, if you got backseat on that thing, it was going to send you to the moon. I mean, it
Yeah.
would just accelerate, right?
Yeah.
We needed a playful, cool ski. And the idea was Freeride World Tour. It was not, big mountain, waist deep blower. We already had that in the 118.
Right.
So that was what we set out to build, is a ski for the athletes that was 110 underfoot, twin tip, and could handle skiing Verbier,
Yeah.
and once we got kind of the shape down and the general direction, we started just giving them to them and, having them ski on prototypes at Freeride World Tour competitions.
Yeah.
So that's where it was proven. That's where it was tested
Yeah.
at that level. What scared us is that, when Marcus, which I know you guys you guys chatted with Marcus, when a kid like that, who's throwing double backflips or opening up never skied before lines, says it's a cool ski, can we sell that in stores?
Yeah.
At one point in time, we had discussed building two versions of it, an athlete ski
Right.
and a commercial ski. But we didn't see the volume in the units. I mean, you have to, especially a brand like ours, we can't just build random things. We have
Right.
to justify the value of the mold because of the units, and we have
Yeah.
so many skis to make. We can't just build a one-off or multiple versions of something.
And to just explain, like, what does a mold cost? Like, if you're going to build something like,
Yeah, it's
What's
thousands. Yeah, it's thousands. I mean, it's different for everybody. But we're talking, hundreds of thousands when you really get down into it. And then you're buying all the materials and you're
Right.
buying all the, it gets
And
expensive.
each size, it's a different
Exactly.
mold. Yep.
It gets expensive very quickly. And then the material cost on the volume of what you're doing, buying more, it'll cost less in
Right.
the end, right?
Yep.
By unit. So to build two versions of a ski, in a 110 underfoot that you're probably going to do small units in, didn't make sense.
Right.
So we just said, screw it. Let's just use the same exact ski that Marcus is skiing on at the Freeride World Tour
Yep.
level and bring it to the retail customer
Yeah.
and see what they think.
Yeah.
And it's awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
if you haven't skied it, it's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool. Really
Yep.
soft tip and tail, really stiff underfoot,
Right.
bends around you, side cut. That's a piece of the sole piece that we can talk about in a minute, but side cut is your friend.
Right.
The
Yeah.
more side cut, the easier it's going to be to ski. It
Yep.
can be a super stiff ski. If it has a lot of side cut, a lot of, short radius, then it's going to be playful and fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a point that gets glazed over, the athlete driven thing, especially in our industry. People love to know that it's been proven by athletes at the highest level, but from the brand side, you have to look at, okay, like, yeah, our top athletes are really loving this ski. Like, how many consumers out there are skiing like Marcus, first and foremost?
Yeah.
And Marcus isn't buying skis. We're giving him skis, So
Exactly.
like to figure that out, like where to be in the middle,
Yeah.
where, okay, at the end of the day, we have to sell some of these,
Yep.
Yes, we want this to be a powerful, athlete ski, but you don't want it to be limited, like, to knowing you have to go to France and say, this is going to be a sports marketing ski. We're going to sell 100 pairs. They're going to be like, no. So yeah, that's always interesting, validating skis with athletes and then retailers or even consumers, and then having to split hairs to find out where the middle of the road is there.
Totally.
Yep.
The first real validation. I mean, we had retailers on the ski, but at that free skier test at Jackson a couple years ago, 2 years ago.
Yep.
That was a good one.
It was good. We got
Snow
a
was
lot of
insane.
snow.
Yeah. Right. Yep.
And having people, we've learned that, we're a cool brand. We do a good job. We're not the coolest brand. We're Rossignol. We've been around a long time.
Right.
And if you put a list down of who are the coolest brands out there, and you talk to the average free skier style reader,
Yep.
tester, we've probably had some skis that are cool and people think are cool, but we are not the top of the list of the coolest
Right.
brand out there. And at that test, to have people coming in being like, this thing's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
You did a good job.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, I mean, that's a good point. That's tough when you think about any of the heritage brands.
Yeah.
Typically aren't considered the cool brands.
brand.
It's the newer, smaller brands.
But some of the brands that those manufacturers make skis for,
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and that's
Yep.
also the funny
that
part.
Rossignol, Elan, or Fisher, or Atomic made your cool brand ski.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I don't want to sound like we're picking apart Rossignol. Obviously, this happens at every brand. It's
Yes.
just any brand that's been around this long, there's ebbs and flows, and I think just like George said, I mean, that Soul 7 was such a special ski, not just for Rossi, but for the industry.
Yeah.
So I don't want to seem like we're too harsh on Rossignol, but there's ebbs and flows. You walked in to the product side of stuff from race, and Rossi, it's no secret, is crushing in race and has been. So it was probably also eye-opening for you
Totally.
to be like, oh, everybody's asking for the Hero Series and race. And then all of a sudden it was kind of that downturn of, the dad skis, which, again, you sold plenty of. But now with this new stuff that we're talking about, arcade skis, vision boots, it kind of feels like Rossi's again finding their way.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's two pieces that we've seen. One is that when we were our strongest, we make an all mountain ski that is a really strong offer, and we make a mid fat ski, 100 plus.
Yeah.
That's a strong offer. And yeah, we get everything from racing, our technologies, whether we use them in the ski or to their full potential, because you don't need to be building a 100 200 foot that's a race ski. That's not reasonable. But having both of those things firing on both cylinders is when our brand is at its best.
Yeah.
And that is what we looked at with, Experience was struggling. Sender was, the kind of Black Ops line was not exactly what people wanted. It was eye-opening for me for sure, because that 106, that Sender 106 Ti, I got on that thing and could pipe arcs on it like it was a GS ski. And I was like, everybody's going to want this. Not the case.
And
I watched him do it at incredibly low speeds. His hip is on the ground at Deer Valley. I'm like, oh, fuck. Did he just do that?
I was just going to say, for context, there's 1% of the population skis like Jake. So
yeah, but and I thought in my head as a new product manager,
Right.
I was like, this is going to make everybody better.
right.
No, whoops.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, as we slid around the hill looking at like, what's the next move here? It blew us away at how many Soul 7s were still out there.
Yeah.
In every generation. I mean, you stand in a lift line and look down and you see people and you're like, that's a 12-year-old ski.
Yeah.
Why are you still skiing on that? And I would ask people, well, why haven't you? Well, I got this ski from X brand. I got this ski from that brand. They're great skis. They're just not my Soul 7s.
Right.
Like, okay. And, the light bulb, Tor Verdonk and I really leaned into that with Europe, that like, hey, guys, you need to come and look at this. You need to see that there's still, what is it? So then what is it? Why? And it's back to the idea of balance, round turn shape, short radius,
Yep.
side cut. I said it, side cut is your friend.
Yeah.
And, people don't want to be pushed around by their ski.
Yeah.
They want to go enjoy themselves and have, if you take 3 runs and you're exhausted, then, you just spent a lot of money on your lift ticket and that cheeseburger at the restaurant.
Right.
You want to go take more runs. You need to be able to ski more. And that's, the math that we kind of did.
Yep. Yeah.
I think it's kind of weird in like the early mid 2000s for sure, when really difficult skis were just cool. It was almost like a badge of honor. Like,
Yeah.
hey, I can ski
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
a mantra, a gotama, or a katana.
Yeah.
Like, you know, vocal really kind of paved that way, I think. And like yeah, you're getting, it was almost cool to say you didn't get beat up,
Right.
but you're on skis that beat you up.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden comes a thing like, yo, I don't have to get beat up. I can actually be out there. But that's, I mean, I think, you know, consumers are still working through that. Like, it's okay not to,
Yeah.
you know, get your ass kicked.
Yep.
Who
Yeah.
really wants that?
No,
I don't
mean,
think anybody anymore, and I think that speaks volumes to what the brands are doing right now. You know,
Yeah.
what's behind us, even there being
Yeah.
an older construction ski, but and it's on the burlier side, but
Yeah.
it's fun to ski. It's poppy.
Totally.
It's energetic. It's not going to beat you up. But I think, you know, the arcade skis, what kind of, we've talked about this, but the trend is right now is, you know, building skis that are more accessible, but still have that top end power, but they're easy to initiate. They're not going to beat you up. But it's amazing how many people we run into specifically in New England. And we do the same thing. You know, we're typically on the following year's skis, you know, and then again, they're potential customers. So like we look down and they're on a, you know, I feel like we're picking on vocal now, but a 20-year-old pair of mantras, and you're like, what do you like about those? You know, have you tried anything else? And that's, you know, you want to tell people like, hey, there's easier stuff out there that has just as much performance, and you don't get beat up. And specifically that guy that we ran into last year at Sunapee, he's like, well, I just come and do 4 runs. And I'm like 110% for those 4 runs. And then I'm tired. And you're like, well, if you're on something else,
6 or 8 runs in
yeah,
your bud.
yeah. Yep.
But you know, like, so like if the Soul 7 came out in 2012, 2013, whatever that was, I mean, we were still living in that world of skis being really difficult.
Yeah.
And the Soul 7 was priced like those other skis, kind of marketed like those other skis,
Yep.
but was so much different that it almost made it seem like the pendulum swung
Yeah.
further.
Yep.
Which is, you know, we would be guilty of this, but then we get on it and it's almost like this should be more than it is.
Right.
Yeah.
And
it looked different. I mean, not just with the air tip, but like at that time, graphically, it looked different than everything
Yes, it
else
did.
too.
Totally.
skis were so messy. at the
So
time.
messy.
Yeah.
And that was really clean. It was, you know, a little bit, you know, black, but it had the pop of yellow, but it was a little bit more on the elegant side,
Yep.
you know?
Yep.
So yeah, it's crazy.
So that's what we did, you know, going to the new Soul. We really looked at what made that old Soul good, what made that old Soul bad.
Yep.
And how do we build a ski that an intermediate to beginner level skier can go enjoy, and how can we go ski on this ski and enjoy it? And you know, those years of Black Ops were not for, you know, we learned a lot about ourselves.
Right.
We learned some marketing things. We learned some construction things. The front end of that 106, that 94 that we built, were really quiet and really smooth. So, you know, how do we cut that off the ski and stick it on a Soul 7? And it's kind of what we did. You know, we built the ski. Obviously, it's a brand new construction, brand new shape, but we kept that, you know, really the tail of the new Soul 102s is a lot like the old Soul 7.
Okay.
And the rocker profile is a lot, you know, it's adjusted obviously, but it's a lot like that. So it's free and allows you to not be trapped in a turn. But the tip is a lot like the 106 or the 94,
Yeah.
just a bit wider, because it's, you know, it's got more side cut to it. So those skis were 19, 20 meter radius skis.
Yeah.
And Soul 7 was a 16 meter radius ski. The new Soul 102 is a 16 meter radius ski. So
Okay.
that's a big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's huge.
That's a big difference. And this is a 102 underfoot. We've seen that trend, that side cut, or that, that waist width trend pendulum. I mean, it swings all over. We see it with everything in our industry.
Yep.
And whether it's brands being too aggressive one way or the other, brands being on top or losing their footing, and waist widths going big to narrower and so we found really in that 102 waist width to be kind of the next generation of where sole should fit. And I think we've hit another home run here. I think it's for that, everybody style ski. I
Yeah.
think that it's a good option.
Yep.
Yeah.
And as far as arcade goes, replacing experience,
Yeah.
what would you say the major difference is between, somebody who, because experience was around for a long time and
Yeah.
you guys sold it well. I assume there's customers that are like asking, hey, I've had an experience 88. What's up with the new arcade 88 or 84?
Yeah. Yeah. We had a look back at the original experience. That's really what we based our development off of. We used obviously we benchmark every brand out there for whatever waist width we're building. But the real winner for us was the original experience 88 and the experience 84.
Okay.
Honestly, putting those against current skis, they were right in there.
Yeah.
They're still relevant products. So we use those as a heavy kind of directional bearing for us. One of the big differences that we kind of came to is that the 88, we wanted to build two skis, 84, 88 in year one, that were similar, but it's not that the 84 is a lesser ski than the 88. It's more of what type of skier are you?
Yeah.
The 88 is a cruisy, big, it's still 16-meter radius, so not big radius, but big turn shape. You can just, plant that edge and let it ride and be comfortable, absolutely ripping a super G turn or a big GS turn.
Yep.
Where the 84 is more for that customer that likes snappy and playful feeling and more energy coming out of the ski. So I skied the 84 almost all year last winter. I'm always skiing with people.
Yep.
Choosing between the two, I think they're both phenomenal. If I had a Deer Valley day, and it's 9 o'clock in the morning and it's wide open, then I'm 88 all day, just absolutely piping as hard as I can, ripping arcs. But if it's a crowded weekend and I want to be playful and kind of bob and weave out of people, I'm on that 84 because it just have that pop and that energy and the snap. So,
and they are construction wise, they're different. They're not just the same.
correct.
Yep. Just
Correct.
a wider footprint. So what's the construction difference between 84, 88?
A little bit more metal in the 88.
Yep.
We've been playing a lot with the shape of the metal. We're not going tip to tail.
Yep.
We've learned, again, racing thing. We've learned in racing that if we play with the actual shape of the metal and how it integrates with the wood, or we actually play with the contour lines of the metal, which we don't do in these skis, but do in more of the Forza line, where we actually play with the shape of the metal, so it bends differently and creates different stiffness. But as we bring the metal into the body of the ski, it's full metal sheet out over the edges. And then as it kind of goes past the binding, it dips in and then works its way up the ski inside. That allows the ski to torsionally twist. So if you have a full sheet of metal, you're getting that full plantedness tip to tail and torsionally.
Yep.
If you have it cut inside the ski and move through the ski that way, the kind of the wider or the narrower and the length of it allows the wood to be more interactive with the metal. So the more we bring it up the ski, but inside the ski, the more we're getting tip to tail stiffness, which is giving us that longer feeling.
Right.
But we still get a lot of torsional twist. So if you grab that 88 off the wall and flex it, just the general, like, how does this thing feel?
Yeah.
It's going to feel really stiff. That's just your tip to tail flex. That is not, it's the sum of the parts. It's very hard to take a ski and twist it with your hands.
Right.
But if you're, slow-mo that ski on edge, you're going to see that ski bend a lot torsionally, which allows that kind of suppleness and feel. Where the 84 is going to be softer flex-wise, but you've got more wood, so you're getting more pop and more energy. You still got metal underfoot, so it gives you that grip, but it just doesn't extend as long. It's not as thick. So we play with that kind of feeling through the models.
Yep. Go for it.
What other, you mentioned, benchmarking against some other brands. what were some other skis that these were benchmarked against, or even?
Um, pretty much all of the any 88, 84, 82 on the market. Because we were doing such a overhaul,
Yeah.
it wasn't as pointed as it has been or can be, where we say this is the ski, we're going to go grab this ski from Nordica, or we're going to go grab that ski from
Right.
Vocal.
Yep.
We literally went out and bought every single 88 underfoot ski. And then, did our own product test, as you guys would, where you kind of say, this is the winner, this is second.
Yep.
So each of the kind of core group of testers went out and skied on each ski and ranked them like you would, like anyone would. And then we kind of narrowed it down to the top 5 skis, and we actually tried to do it in different places as well. So, I actually did it in Utah, did it, in the East Coast with a group, did it in France with a group, and really tried to narrow down, not just what the magazines say, not just what you guys say, but really what our group of testers say as well. Compiled all that info and then kind of landed on 5 or 6 different skis. And those skis would change based on where we were.
Yeah.
And so to put like a kind of a nail on which models, it was a big,
It was everything.
It was everything.
Yeah.
And, there's a lot, nobody's making bad skis anymore. And I know that some people hate that kind of saying of like, everybody makes good skis. Yeah, but they do. We all are smart engineers and smart skiers. And we're just trying to we're just trying to have you guys sell as many skis as possible.
Well, I think what was so different a bunch of years ago, even 10 years ago, was like, there were definite like hits and misses in brands. Like there were for sure misses. Now everybody's got something that's good, and there might be something where like the cream really rises to the top.
Totally.
But I mean, also before there wasn't these families of skis like there are now. I mean, it was just like, a thing. I mean, it was just a soul, and then that gets expanded on. And
I totally agree. It's wild how it's hard for me. My job is to know what's out there in the marketplace and to help drive the direction of the brand. But when I look and sit with a catalog from another brand, I'm like, whoa, they got 6 skis in this family. And then I turn the page and I'm like, whoa, they got 6 skis in this family. Like, and then, so you take each brand and you take there are brands that we compete against, and there are brands that, we don't really pay attention to. And it's not because they don't make great skis. It's just the volume and the direction. And sure, they eat into a little bit of our market share, but we're not gaining a lot of skiers in the ski industry. At the end of the day, the big brands are trading market share. Who has the best ski right now? And if you see a dip in this brand's market share, it's probably because this brand stole it from them. It's not because we just added 5,000 new skiers to the marketplace, which is unfortunate, and we need to change somehow. But that's a reality,
right? Yeah, and I think the industry definitely gained some skiers through COVID, but the issue has always been retaining them.
Yes,
and it's unfortunate that I don't know what the number might be, but say half of those people went away.
Which is why we built the ski boot.
That's a great segue. That's a great segue. Another one of your projects, but what's up with the Vision ski boot?
Yeah. So the idea with Vision, when we really looked at the market, trying to understand what the industry needed and how to be different, we found that the biggest deterrent from the sport was getting in and out of your ski boots. It wasn't learning how to ski. It wasn't riding up the lift in cold temperatures. It wasn't falling. At the end of the day, people hate putting on ski boots and taking off ski boots. And you guys do a phenomenal job of fitting people into the right boot. But there's a lot more skiers out there that don't come into your shop, right? I mean, you get a lot of people in here and you treat them well and you create a great feel.
There's still a lot of people that, even if they're coming in here, like they struggle to get on a pair of boots.
They struggle to get on a pair of boots. And at first it was, how do we go after the aging demographic.
Yep.
That was part of the conversation. But what we really realized that it wasn't just aging. It wasn't just people with poor mobility. It was a huge number of people. When I present this boot to people, I say, okay, there's us that know how to put our boots on. And we know that it's going to pinch us. I ski in a plug race boot, right? I got a lace up liner on, or I'm getting into a 140 flex boot, and I know it's going to hurt. But once I slam my foot into it, there's 10 seconds of like, oh, that sucked.
Right.
And then I'm in the boot, and it's been built perfectly for me.
Right.
And I'm going to ski the day in it. And when I pull it off, if it's a cold day, I'm going to sit in the car with the heater on, and they're going to warm up, and then I'm going to struggle to get out of them. And once I'm out of them, it's 10 more seconds of like, that sucked. Okay. Put the slippers on, and we're good.
But I think this is good to talk about, because that is the pain of getting in and out of ski boots is not limited to beginner, intermediate skiers. That is like,
oh yeah,
that's lifelong.
Yeah.
So if you can come up with a way to reduce that, at the end of the day, you're shoving your foot into a piece of plastic.
Yeah, it's a cast. I mean,
right.
you're putting your foot in a cast for the next 4 hours, 5
right.
hours.
And again, 1% of people are skiing in a 140 flex plug boot,
right,
like you.
But you take that 1% and you go, okay, then go to a 120 flex 4-buckle boot. Maybe that's 10% now. And if you go a little bit further, you're going to be at, 20%. Even if you say that 30% of the ski market is okay with slamming their foot into a boot and knowing it's going to hurt, that means that 70% of the market absolutely hates it, doesn't want anything to do with it.
Yeah.
Right. And the biggest dread of their day is slamming their foot into a ski boot. So, okay, take that 30%. Let's just call it 30%. Take them out. They're coming to you guys, and they're buying a 120, or they're buying a 110 flex, and they know what it's like, and it's what it is. The other 70% of people need something easy to get on and off that still skis, that still performs. So those are the two pieces: get it on easy, get it off easy, then make it ski like an alpine ski boot. And so that was the goal of the project. It was a big project. It took a long time. But we accomplished it. I mean, the boot opens completely wide open. One unhook of the second buckle, there's a double buckle on there. You release that, and it pops the pin in the back, and the thing opens up like a V. You can slide your foot into it hands free, and don't have to do anything. I mean, you could pull on the liner a little bit to make it easier, but you slide right into this thing, and then once you buckle the boot, it locks back in place, and you're in an alpine ski boot.
So that for us, I mean, we were lucky enough to try these things on a year and a half ago. And you literally did step into it hands-free.
I stepped into an LV 130 hands-free.
Yes. And that's the other piece of it, is we built an LV, an MV, and an HV.
Yep.
We built 100 flex on the men's side, 100 flex, a 120 flex, and a 130 flex. I mean, first of all, that's incredible to come with all that,
and a huge investment. Huge investment. But the goal was to cure, you're going to have people that need to be in a 130 flex boot. You're going to have people that are in a 100 flex boot. Yeah. We wanted to be able to make this awesome for everybody. And we were sold on the ease of getting in and out of the boot. But of course, in the back of your head, immediately you're like, well, if it was that easy to get in and out of, it's not going to ski very well. But then again, months later we skied it, and you're like, damn, this skis like a 4-buckle boot that you've been in for years.
Yes.
I
mean, that was the goal. It was a challenge.
Yep.
And again, I'm not talking to, sure, there's people that are in that upper echelon, 30%, the upper 30% of skiers.
Yep.
It's not the right boot for them. And that's fine. We understand that. You should try it.
Right.
Because you might be surprised.
Again, that 130 LV.
Yeah. You might be surprised.
That thing,
you think you're in that upper 30%, and you might be, and that's great, but you just want that ease.
Yeah.
So it does solve problems. Sure. There's people that don't, that can't get their foot into a boot because they don't have dorsal flexion. They don't, they're struggling. They have hip mobility issues or knee mobility issues. Sure, that's a great option for them, but don't knock the idea that it doesn't have to be hard to get your boots on. You
Yeah.
don't
Right.
have
You're
to-
not more badass because it's
Right.
difficult. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like, again,
If none of us had to ever complain about taking our boots off, when I'm doing that weird shit in the parking lot with
Yeah.
certain things, when I've like gotten close, but I'm just go,
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Or have to spend an extra 10 minutes heating your boots up to take them
Yeah,
off at the end of the day.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean
Yeah.
that the funny thing presenting, the boot to different groups of people. I use the idea of like, that you watch tennis on TV or you go to, the US Open and you hear that grunting and those noises. I hear those same noises in parking lots and base lodges with people trying to get in and out of their boots.
Yeah.
And we want to cure that.
Yeah.
That was the goal, is to get rid of that.
Yeah.
And we built it in women's flexes as well. We have 80 flex, 90 flex, and 100 flex there as well.
Yeah.
So it's like we offer the full thing. You don't need to struggle anymore. Try it on next to it. It's got a great fit. You can try it on next to other brands.
Yes.
And it may not be the right boot for you, but I'm guessing you're going to be blown away.
Yeah. And again, it skis really well. I mean, that's obviously the getting in and out of it is a huge benefit, but having it then perform is
Yep.
great.
And it looks like a 4-buckle boot because
Right.
it is a 4-buckle boot.
It is.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
And I guess
which
the other sound you hear in the lodge now is grunting and then boa dials.
and then boa dials.
Yep.
Yes. And, we've spent time, working, communicating with BOA as a brand. Right now, we are not in that world because, for us, BOA is a closure system.
Yep.
It's not a performance system. So the way that we look at it, is that the, evolution of getting in and out of the boot was more important to us right now.
Yep.
And so that's why step in technology, which is what the technology is called. That's why we stayed in that lane, and that's what we're talking about. That's what we're focusing on.
Yeah.
And
I think it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
It was a void in the fact that you can get it in a booth that actually performs, because you don't get it in the other options. It's just easy to step into.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
doesn't ski like you want it to.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I agreed.
And they look kind of
Agreed.
weird.
Well, it's a
The
status.
Vision doesn't, not the Vision,
No.
Yes.
but the other,
Some of the other-
like the more rear entry options.
Well,
Yeah.
we even say that when we're presenting, is that, part of this is there is a status to skiing, and
Yep.
you want to look like other people. And it's, you look around and you see people skiing, maybe with a helmet and sunglasses. That's pretty rare to see. You see them with goggles. So when
Yep.
you go to the ski resort, you see everybody wearing helmet and goggles.
Yep.
And when you look around at people in the lift line, everybody's in a 4-buckle boot. If you're not in that, you're different.
Yep.
And if you're new to the sport, that can be overwhelming. It's an overwhelming sport.
Yeah.
We know that. It's,
Yep.
you get on a chairlift, and it's it's probably the only sport, one of the only sports where you can just go up to the window, buy a ticket, hop on a contraption, and get
Yeah.
taken to the top of a mountain,
Yeah.
in the Alps or in the Rockies or anywhere.
Yeah.
And be like, free access to it all.
Right.
And
Yeah.
you just go, not free, but you
Right.
just have access to it all.
Right.
I mean, it's wild.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah. Especially if you get on the wrong chairlift.
Yeah, exactly. You have no idea. You just
Yeah.
like shimmy along and hop on, and all of
Yeah.
a sudden you're like, wait, it goes there? Yeah.
Dude, and they're really high.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's not much
Yeah.
holding in. There's nothing holding in.
Just this bar.
You go
that
on a
comes
roller
up-
coaster, you get way more.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It is.
Yep.
And like the thing isn't going to sway if it's windy.
No.
You know, a roller coaster, the chairlift
Right.
sways, the
Yeah,
chairlift
yeah,
moves,
for sure.
going all
For
over
sure.
the place.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
And typically you're not riding a roller coaster in snow, rain, sleet,
No.
wind.
No.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
getting blasted by a snow gun.
Yeah.
Maybe if you're at Killington.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
We don't get that a lot in Utah.
Awesome. Well, this is great. Really appreciate you, making the trip and making time to sit down with us. Excited about Vision Boot, obviously arcade skis, soul skis, and where that's going to go. So we're excited.
Thanks, guys. I mean, it's cool. We're really excited about the direction of where the brand is headed. We've got a lot more coming in the next couple of years, and this is just kind of scratching the surface on what we're going to bring to the market. So we're
Awesome.
stoked.
Sweet.
Great. Excited for you guys.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thanks for having me.
All right.
Cool.
See you.